Alright, so this will be the second part of the Gravelording series. In the first part, we talked about the different pieces of the Gravelord's responsibilities, the invitation for the Gravelord, the welcoming for the Gravelord, various challenges which we will get more into in this section. We talked about the difference between gravelording and necromancy, and how a gravelord is more like the owner of a castle, the keeper of a castle and everyone in it, versus someone visiting a castle, getting a few things in the castle. So just a little analogy there, but something to think about. If you want to hear more, there is a first episode. Please go ahead and listen to it. But we will be moving on with this episode now. So, one of the things that we talked about in the first episode that we didn't really get to expand on too much is the benefits that a Gravelord gets from the graveyard. Touched on it lightly, but we really didn't get to go too much in depth on it. So, in a lot of other necromancy texts, things like that, there are ways to get things properly from the dead, ways to elicit their blessing on certain things like dirt that you retrieve or items that you pull from the dead so that you don't incur their ire. These items are deemed to be full of the virtue of the grave. So, this is another added benefit of being a Gravelord, is that every item, as mentioned in the first video, every item that's pulled when making a request from the dead, from a particular graveyard, for that Gravelord and that Gravelord only, will be enchanted with the power of that graveyard, will be enchanted by the powers of the dead in that graveyard. So that means if you, let's say you went in there and you needed to get a particular component, let's say leaves or bark from a tree or dirt from a particular grave. Let's say you wanted to, for instance, call on or use a component for a wraith, or let's say a murdered soul, whatever. The components that you would use, the dirt, the soil, the leaves, the bark, anything, would all be imbued with the power of that graveyard. So, I know it's a little bit obvious that they would have the virtues of the grave, but they have the added virtue of having been given by the grave specifically, because the graveyard will guide you. It will guide you to those things. It will guide you to the pieces. It will guide you to the sticks, the proper leaves, the proper whatever you need to do. It will take you to the place where you need to go to. You will know you're dead, and they will guide you. They will guide you to a place to get your items, and that item will be magically enchanted by the graveyard, with no additional work on your part, no additional enchanting on your part, no additional evocation, no additional anything. Will automatically be fully charged and ready to go, because it has been given to you directly by the dead, by the authority of the dead. So it's a little bit different than being a necromancer who has the components but doesn't have the full power and authority of the dead behind him. He has to propitiate the dead. He has to do things to get their permission. But a Gravelord has the entire graveyard behind him. So we're going to get a little bit more into that now. So let's talk about that. So one of the things that you can do that I learned from my patroness in a graveyard is, if you are wanting to call them all to make an announcement as a Gravelord, and this isn't in the book, so you're not going to find it in there. This is for all you wonderful listeners. But if you want to, as a Gravelord, call on the Assembly of the Dead, you have to go in explicitly with the intention of calling them specifically. And your ingredients will be fresh. You can't use something that you already got, but you can go in there and grab. And this only works after you've become a Gravelord, which we will get into. But you can take a handful, 2 handfuls of dirt, leaves, whatever you want, specifically for that purpose. Allow yourself to be guided by the dead to the place where you can retrieve those ingredients. And then you go back and you burn them and you call on them. Again, this is not a beginner's path. You have to know how to call the dead. You have to know how to call on your Gravelord. You have to call them and pull them, and how to be able to feel them when they come. But when they do, you will look and you will see all of the dead and the undead. Every single one of them will be assembled within your vision range, and they will all listen to you. They can't stay for long. They won't stay indefinitely, but they will all be there, all assembled for you to create an edict, to make an announcement, whatever you want to do. And you can do that from in the graveyard, or you can do that from the comfort of your own necromantic, deathly aligned ritual space. So that's another thing that we will get into a little bit later, and I go into a little bit more in my book, that link between the Gravelord and the graveyard. But that is the way for you to call the assembly of the dead, which will be handy later when you are a Gravelord. Now, when you're going around in the graveyard and you run into the resistance, it's good to quell dissent and quell dissenters, but more than that, you have to show your power. And so this again is not a beginner's path. It's not a novice's path. It is something that someone with experience has to do. The dead have to respect you. They have to know that you have the power to enforce what you say and to do things that they want you to do, since you are their Gravelord. Just like a lord of a castle, a lord of a realm or a fief would have to show the strength of his armies. So, you have to do this. You don't have your own spirits that you've already called, or your own things, and you'll have to use your wits and the magic that you have, and good luck to you. It's a little bit more challenging, I imagine, if you haven't had the advantage of calling on spirits of your own before. So after you have bested and quieted all of them, then you must seek out the mightiest of the dead in the graveyard, the dead and the undead, and you must assemble them and announce it. And on a specific date, you must create a challenge. Now this is very important. You must call on the dead and the undead to assemble their most powerful, most vile, most hateful, most wrathful, most rage-filled, most angry, violent, vicious, cruel, hateful dead in the graveyard. The ones that the other dead fear, the ones that they are terrified of, the ones that make them go back into their holes when they walk past, when they fly past, when they float past. It must be them. And you must, on a certain night in your graveyard, announce this challenge that you and your forces will take whatever they have, the best that they have, the strongest that they have, and that from the ones that they send against your forces, that you will beat them, that you will best them, and from that, a single champion, the strongest one, the greatest one out of all of the ones in the graveyard, that one will be your champion. And this is the beginning of creating power structures in your graveyard, of designating ranks, but also to show your power too. So you must go and defeat all of them with your forces. Every last one that comes against you. Doesn't matter what kind of being it is, demon, undead, whatever it is. And the strongest will get through. Your guards, your forces, your spells will let it through. And you are not to dispel the spirit, but to allow it to be bound to you. Now this spirit, it might be hateful, it might be deceitful, it might be any of those things, but it's your job as someone who has the experience to deal with dark spirits, your job to make sure that that spirit, that ghost, that poltergeist, that undead wraith, whatever it is, that it is bound to you completely. By doing this, you show the dead your power. They show you dead your might, but also you gain an ally in the graveyard, the greatest asset and strength the graveyard has besides its guardian. And this champion will give you insight into the graveyard. Of course, you must filter it too, depending on the spirit. You must filter it to understand that its malign influence, if you are not prepared, will corrupt you, will destroy you, will overpower you. But if you are to rule, then you must have it with you. You must be with it when you come, and they will see it, and they will understand that you are the ruler, that you are the Gravelord. So that is the champion and the challenge. And this is all a prelude to the 31 Nights. And 31 Nights is much more severe, but we'll get into that in a little bit. In the process of going back and forth from your graveyard to the champion, to your graveyard, you will be led by secret ways in and out of your graveyard. You may think that these ways are silly or easily known, but I can tell you from experience that these ways are ways that the dead have ensured that other mortals and other beings will not see you go by. So you can get in and out of your graveyard by these ways. And if you go the ways that the dead have taught you to go in and out of their graveyard, you will not have interference from anyone else. The living will not be there, because the living will not send you there. And other beings, other things that are trying to stop you, will not know you are there. But only when you use those ways. Also, it's very important that you always keep your word to the dead, and that you never break the secrets they tell you. Never betray the secrets they tell you. Never reveal to anyone the secret ways in and out, no matter how close you are, no matter how intimate you are with someone, your friend from the whole lifetime that you know you can count on beyond anything, for anything, and you can trust him with anything, anytime, no matter how much you know them. You can never tell them these secret ways, because these ways are the ways that your graveyard has shown you, and they are sacred to the dead. So you must keep your promises and keep your secrets that they tell you to keep secret. We never ever reveal them to anyone else. So, these are just a few things that we kind of discussed in the first one. One of the Champion Challenger, the Assembly. We went over the secret ways. Okay. Some other things that the dead will do too, as a grave lord, is they will hide you. They like you. One of the powers of the dead are purported to be able to impart to the living is their invisibility, which they will do when you are a grave lord. So we're going to kind of get into the last little bit here, and we'll talk about the hardest part of being a grave lord, which is the 31 nights. Now this is the opus. This is the great work of the grave lord. This is the one that will prove beyond a doubt that you are their grave lord. And there will be no doubt you will be part of the grave lord, and it will be part of you. And you will be together forever, literally, after this is done. This might be severe for some. They may not want to do it. Don't be a grave lord. Stick to being a necromancer. Stick to being somebody on the side. This isn't for you. It's not for you. But for those of you who want it, who want their power, who want the backing of the dead 100%, this is a crucial part. A crucial part. to doing this work. So, as you have with so many other things as a grave lord, you must announce the challenge, the 31-night challenge. But this is not just a challenge of the body as you have been doing, but a challenge of the mind and the soul. A challenge in all realms all at once. This is your journey into the underworld, into the realm of the dead. And in that realm, in that place where the dead are, you will go. And not only will you go there, you will show them that you are the grave lord. So this, the 31 nights, requires that you fast. You fast for all 31 nights. And you're going to do a modified version of the Black Fast. And what that means is that each day, each week, you can plan it out however you want to, but in the end, on the last night, the 31st night, you should be down to just water. So the way that I do it, and the way that I did it too, is that each day you cut out a little bit. First, you start with your 3 meals like you normally have, and you cut a little bit out of each meal. And then you cut out an entire meal. And then you go down to 2 meals. And then you cut a little bit out of each of those meals. And the meals get smaller and smaller, and then you go down to 1 meal. And you substitute it with liquid. And the foods that are prescribed to be sustenance that is acceptable to the dead, like milk and dry bread, things like that. And eventually, your stomach will adjust to the lack of sustenance, so that you can only exist on pure liquid, which will be what you will be on at the end. Now, while you are doing this, you're not just fasting. This is just for your body. Like I mentioned, it's a total test of everything. So on these nights, on an appointed time, the 31 nights, you will go to your graveyard for 31 nights in a row. 31 nights. And every night, for at least 20 minutes, you will go and sit on the throne that you have chosen. Sit on the place that the dead come to assemble to meet you and greet you, which is all explained in my Gravelording book, Gravelording 1. And you'll go there, and in the beginning, it won't seem like very much. But you're issued a challenge that they are to throw everything they can at you besides killing you, make sure that you mention that they are not allowed to kill you, but they can do everything they can to prevent you from achieving the spot. Achieving the spot on the throne for at least 20 minutes every night for 31 nights. All the while you're fasting. So, it's very important. The fast is important. Because the fast divorces the flesh from the spirit, and the spirit is allowed to journey into the realm of the dead. And every night that you go there, you'll see more. And every night that you go there, more will happen. And it will build and build and build. I had animals get possessed and attack me from trees. Wild dogs show up. All kinds of crazy things. Stinging spider webs, burning strands, all kinds of things. Lightning. All kinds of things came at me. And still, they want to test your resolve. They want to test your mettle. They want to test how good you are, how strong you are. They want to test everything about you. And you are also testing yourself. This is probably one of the more intense workings you will ever do in your life. It doesn't seem like much, but as you progress, you will be able to see the realm of the dead more and more and more and more. And the inhabitants of the graveyards will get clearer and clearer and clearer as the realm of the living world fades more and more and more away from you. And on the last night, you lay down because you are done and you have beat them and you are still there. And they will come at you then. They will all come at you. Every last one of you. But there is a council of the dead who presides over the graveyard, over most any graveyard. Council of the dead, not the Grand Council, just the Council of the dead. And there will come a voice from deep within the ground, and you will feel a piece of yourself go into the graveyard, and a piece of the graveyard go into you. And the voice will say, "It is done." And all the things that are making noise, and everything that is coming at you, will all cease all at once. And then, my friends, then you are truly a Gravelord. And it is a profound thing. For then all those benefits that I said at the beginning of this video will be yours and more. Next after that, you will be gifted a scepter that you must ask for. And the scepter will be there and will be full of the full magnitude and powers of that graveyard granted to you by the dead. By now, when you're able to get it, you should be in tune enough with the dead to be able to discern and hear and understand them. And I recommend doing this in this search for the scepter soon after the 31 nights, because you'll still be in that state. Even after you break your face, you'll still be really close to the dead, so you'll be able to hear them well, and they'll be able to hear you very well. But we will get more into the scepter section and some more things a little bit later. Maybe in the third video. For now, takeaway from this one is a little bit more look into the work of the Gravelord. What he has to do. What he has to accomplish in order to even begin to call himself a Gravelord. And that's just one graveyard, his main graveyard. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the third video. So, like I said in the first video, we talked about how all the dead and the graveyards and the Gravelord's graveyard invite you. Talked about that. We talked about the welcoming feeling. And then we talked about, in this one, more of the challenges, more of the things that the Gravelord will have to go through. And these are just abbreviations. They are just short abbreviations of the massive and intense work that you will undergo in order to be a Gravelord. It's very likely, if you do it, that it will resonate with you for the rest of your life. And profound work. Not for the unhealthy, not for those who cannot complete or cannot commit themselves completely to the work as it was intended. Some people will not make it through. The dead are treacherous. They will not make it through. The dead will trick them. They will use deceit. They will breach propriety and go beyond the realm of the dead into the realm of the living to stop the Gravelord from attaining his Gravelordship. They will do all kinds of things to trick you, to deceive you, pull bumpers off your cars, stop alarm clocks. They will do so many things to make sure that you do not achieve that power, because they know what it means when you do. So steadfast, my friends. Stay steadfast. and you will emerge from the 31 Nights, a graveyard, not just in name, but in a title that you've earned and been bestowed upon you by the dead. So I'm going to end this here, and we'll continue on with the third video.